guys, it's me, Black Lily Cat, and I just posted a snow meme. It's not an actual meme, like nobody's ever made it before, but I just add some music and I made a meme, so, haha, hashtag savage. But anyways, I'm going to be doing, so most of you guys are like, what in the world are those dogs? What in the world was that guy? What in the world was that, just all that stuff. And so today I'm going to be explaining it all. It's from a book I'm writing. Haha. Wow, so obvious. But the book, like I said in the description, I know nobody has already watched it because everyone hates me. But anyways, it says that you have to be 5 years or older to listen to this book because, like I stated, there's villains, maybe some gore, but there's not that much of that. It's more cute than sad or something. But what I'm trying to go for is, like in every single book I write, it's about animals, magic, and mystery. So that is like repetition in every single book I'm going to share on this channel. But guys, there's this video I was going to upload, but I couldn't. It wouldn't upload. But anyways, it was when I made that skit that what was it? The thing. Stupid situations any YouTuber will understand. Yes, I know I didn't spell situations correctly, but I was just trying to get that uploaded very quickly. So, yeah. Alright, guys. So, here, I'm not going to show you my face, even though if I was allowed to show my face, I would show you my face. Instead of this painting, but you guys might like the painting. Maybe you want to paint it while you're listening, so you can just look at the painting and then be like, yee. But, so, I have my computer all logged up, and I'm going to read. So the book is called A Deer's Story, because I think a simple title is cute, and I think this is going to be like the only book, or I'm not sure, because usually the first book is kind of boring, so I wouldn't want to just flat out make it so interesting it covers everything and stuff. So I'd probably make like maybe 3 of them. I don't know. Okay, so it's called A Deer's Story, and I'm going to be experimenting with some different voices. So if you guys hear that it's a different voice and character, just don't mind that, okay? So Pledge or Proledge, however those people on Google pronounce it, I googled it, and then I made a video on it, I screen recorded it, and okay, I'm just gonna shut my little mouse and let's just get into the video. Many, many centuries ago, my soul was free. I laid in the meadow, jumped in the forest, scattered in the hills, and like any other deer, I was normal, breathing, I heard normal things, but that all changed on the last day of my life. I was trotting through the forest, I was lost and abandoned. A shadowy figure popped in front of me, and there I was, a terrified fawn. It sucked the life out of me when I was laying on the ground so blank and lifeless. But then I woke up. My body was lighter than before. I could walk through things. I could hear. I could breathe. My eyes glanced over at the lifeless fawn I once was. Was I a ghost? A soul? Was I getting a second chance? Later I spotted some flowers dried by the sun. Their petals drooped down like ashes. My nose nuzzled the grass beneath the flowers. They glowed a vibrant teal and sprang up like butterflies in the wind. I was magic! But I could only live my life again once I defeat the shadows with my one true heir. I am flowers and I am magic. Alright guys, how'd you like that pledge? I know I'm not supposed to interrupt like this, but the name, kind of complicated, but if that was a little depressing, I'm sorry. This probably isn't a book for you, but let's just move on to chapter 1 and then I can move on to chapter 2. I'm just gonna shut up. Chapter 1, a fawn is born. A milky brown fawn stared into a white fawn's closed eyelids. Mommy, shouldn't she be bigger? The fawn asked slowly, looking up at the pale deer. The doe snickered. She's newborn. You were the same size when you were a fawn, the deer replied, licking the tufts of fur on the white fawn. "How's the fawn, Dontail?" a firm, sturdy voice called from outside the mossy den. The doe lifted her head. "Just fine, Red Spot," Dontail replied. The brown fawn sprang up. His hoofs clanked on the rocky ground. The tiny white fawn's eyes pried open, its ears twitching. It looked around. "Mama?" the fawn asked, tilting its head towards Dontail. "I guess that's one way to wake a fawn up," Dontail spat. Red Spot swiftly crawled in the den and picked some clovers bunched up on the wall, hanging from some vines. Red Spot tossed the clovers on the nest. "These should help with any problems with pain," Red Spot quietly said. Another buck softly walked in the den and nuzzled the brown fawn's forehead. His eyes closed in a comfortable, happy wink. "I was expecting you, Starhorn," Dontail calmly told the buck. "Sorry, Dontail. I was gathering grass. You know how hungry deers get." Starhorn laughed. Dontail smiled. The small white fawn looked up at the large buck. "Daddy?" the fawn asked again, smiling. Starhorn laughed. "Sure, I guess I am your daddy," he added, nuzzling the fawn's nose. "Have you named her yet?" Starhorn asked, looking at her. Dontail looked puzzled. Her ears froze. "Hey, Daddy, I have a name," the brown fawn barked. Starhorn looked back at him. "What about Snow?" the fawn asked, jumping up and down. "I like that, Copper," Dontail replied, grinning. Starhorn smiled. "This fawn's name is Snow," he told the fawn. "So, Seal!" Snow yipped. Her eyelashes were long and thick, her body was thin and swift, and her tail was short and bushy like any other fawn. "Hey, sister, wanna play?" Copper asked, wagging his short bushy tail. The deer sprang up again. "Yeah, pay!" The white fawn squealed, trotting into the wall. "Snow, that's—" Copper started. Snow's head banged on the wood. "Ah, that hurt!" she squawked. Starhorn lifted the fawn off the floor. She sat on his forehead. Snow hopped off him and trotted out of the den, the entrance this time. Copper followed her out and darted off into some leaves after Snow. The three deer in the den were laughing softly. "Snow has much to learn," Red Spot softly finished. Dontail nodded as she laid her head down in the moss. Alright guys, that was chapter 1. I hope you guys liked that. But the video is not just over yet because it's only 7 minutes and so that's not nearly as much. Alright guys, chapter 2, The Legend is True. I know that rhymed, but I didn't intention it to be like that. Okay. Moons basically means months, so I just wanted to tell you that. 2 moons after Snow was born, she could see clearly and have sensitive hearing like any other doe. She lifted her head up. "Copper, wake up now," she insisted. She jumped up and down. What?" Copper mumbled, opening his eyes. He yawned and looked out the den. "Ah! What happened to all the vegetation?" Copper asked, his eyes wide. A light brown deer swiftly floated over the dead, bloody, hidden boneful grass. Her nose touched a flower in the middle. A silence fell over the forest. The flower glowed a vibrant teal, and everything slowly faded back to their bright, lush greenery. The deer floated back into the silent forest and disappeared. "Whoa!" Copper exclaimed. His eyes grew thin. Snow scampered out of the den and touched the leaves. "But what? Why? How? What? Why?" Copper added. Snow stayed silent and lifted her head again. "Flowers. The legend is true," Snow quickly whispered. "Flower what now?" Copper asked. "Nothing, just an old legend, I suppose," Snow finished. She swiftly scampered back into the den and plopped down on the nest again. The forest whispered sounds of birds, scatters, and trees. Copper stared out the den again. "I don't know why everything was dead, but that is scary," he murmured, and sat near Snow. Another fawn scrambled up and looked around the den. "Snow, Copper!" the fawn whispered. Snow groaned softly. "What?" Copper replied. "Well, it's me, Hawk, and I wanted to let you know this place isn't safe anymore," the black fawn finished. "What do you mean?" Snow asked, looking up at Hawk. "We have to move to safer territory. We have to tell the herd," Hawk added. Snow looked around at the deer creeping out of their dens. She glanced over at the early sun just crept out from the tall mountains. "We need to tell the rest of the herd. Sorry, not herb. Herd." Copper replied. Snow nodded silently again as the three raced out into the middle of camp. Another fawn's eyes squeezed closingly. The fawn mumbled, smirking. Alright, chapter 3. And this chapter is about Flowers, so she's kind of like her. Chapter 3, He Hounds. Flowers floated over a lush patch of flowers. A black dog appeared in front of her. Flowers looked stunned. You know you have a rip, she said, floating near the dog, examining it. She looked at the dog's red eyes. I know that. The boss wants to speak with you. The dog's firm voice growled. An almost half-wolf-looking dog stepped up from behind the dog and slashed its shadow. The dog disappeared. What? Where'd it go? Flowers asked. That doesn't matter. Why are you here? The half-wolf firmly said. Flowers peered into the dead, blood-stained plants in the distance. Oh, would you like me to heal your plants? I'm talented at the other. She started smiling. No! Answer me! The dog interrupted in a harsh, forcing voice. Flowers floated over the dogs. Don't think you can get away that easy. We'll be watching you, the dog added harshly and turned away. He headed back into the dark, shadowy area. The other 4 dogs followed him and lowered their heads toward him and snarled at Flowers. Flowers returned to her sunny, bright patch of flowers. She looked up at the canopy of large oaks. She sighed. Hounds have returned, and as long as they're here, no deer is safe. She looked down and covered her head and her front legs. A ladybug beetle crawled on the small fawn corpse in hopes of finding meat. The body was fresh-looking, but to its surprise, empty. The beetle sighed softly. Flowers looked at the small beetle. Come here, young one. I will give you food. She welcomed the beetle on her back as the small insect looked at her as she looked at it. Now follow the river and you'll find as much food as your belly can take. She smiled and pointed her head towards the river on the other side of some trees. The beetle scampered off and followed the river quickly. Thank you, squeaked the bug. Flowers nodded and laid her head down again. A small leaf fell on the grass behind her. She lowered her ears and smiled and let the song of the forest lull her to sleep. Okay, in chapter 4 it's got some changes in it. Alright, but if you guys like that chapter, I didn't do the, wet hounds because I'm not allowed to say that. And plus, that is like so basic. Alright, chapter 4, Stars. I don't know why I love stars so much. Snow ran into the middle of camp. Copper followed behind her, a breeze rustling behind the trees. Snow looked up. I can't believe it's almost been a year since Flowers returned, Copper whispered. Snow giggled. Yeah, Hawk added, catching up with them. All the deer gathered around them and stood under a large dirt dune where Joe stood. Hereby these fawns will get the official names. Starhorn and Dontail stood next to them, beaming. I've tested those skills and decided that young Copper will be Copperstripe after his distinct copper-colored stripe on his back, the doe cheered. Snow looked at her brother. Copperstripe, congratulations, your antlers are sprouting too, Snow whispered. Thanks, sister, Copperstripe replied, rubbing her hoof. Snow giggled. And young Snow will be known as Snowtooth for her bravery and kindness, the doe finished. Do you each accept your names? The stag asked, standing on a lower dune. They nodded and smiled. Congrats, Snowtooth, Copper whispered. Snowtooth blushed. Thanks, brother, she finished. Now you may all resume your normal jobs and activities, the doe added. And he with the doe trotted off. Starhorn and Dontail rubbed the 2 young deer. You did well, son, Starhorn firmly nuzzled Copperstripe's small antler. Ah, Mum, stop, that tickles, Snowtooth insisted playfully, but Dontail kept licking Snowtooth's head. Copperstripe laughed and looked up at Starhorn's antlers. I can't wait to have big antlers like yours, Copperstripe added in awe. Starhorn smiled. Well, you're well on your way, Starhorn replied. Copperstripe smiled and turned to Snowtooth. Hawk trotted up to them. I'm going to tell the herd today, guys. Also, congrats, he whispered. Snowtooth winked and grinned. Copperstripe nodded and scampered off towards the doe. Starhorn looked at Dontail. So, what to the herd? Starhorn mumbled. Sorry, Dad, Snowtooth bluffed. We saw flowers, guardian of all the deer, Hawk added intensely. Starhorn breathed heavily. You saw flowers? A milky deer interrupted. Oh, sorry, Diamond Cloud, Dawntail added, lowering her head towards the doe. In fact, so did Hawk, Starhorn, and Snowtooth. The stag stepped on the life side of Diamond Cloud. Did I hear flowers? Asked the buck. The whole herd stared at them. Flowers has returned? A deer asked in a din. Hush, my friends. If this is so, Flowers has returned, Diamond Cloud declared. A silence fell over the herd as everyone crept back to their dens and resumed their patrols and jobs. Later that night, Copperstripe looked up at the moon. Snowtooth sat beside him. You know, Snowtooth, each and every one of those stars are ancestors. I bet they'd be proud of you, Copper said, looking at her teal eyes. He noticed 3 gray dots on the bridges of Snowtooth's eyebrows. Yeah, you too, she replied. Thanks, but where'd you get those dots? He added. Snowtooth laughed. Same way you got your stripe, Copperstripe. She laughed. Copperstripe turned his head and his eyes fixed on the stars again, smiling. Snowtooth laid her head down on his body. Good night, brother. Copperstripe laid his head on hers. Good night. Alright. Did you guys like that? I think I did. And now, Chapter 5, which is the chapter I think I'm almost done with, but I don't have any more, sadly, more than Chapter 5. So, this is just going to be Chapter 1 through 5. A bird's crow in the distance made Snowtooth jump. Good morning, Copperstripe said, sitting to her right. Snowtooth peered into the morning sun creeping out from the trees. A tear sprouted from her eye. Copperstripe held a leg on her back. Whoa, what happened? He asked, rubbing her back. Snowtooth whimpered. It's Flowers. I've been thinking about her for such a long time. I need to find her heir. I need to bring her back, she replied, sniffling. I forgot to do Copperstripe. That is so idiotic. Copperstripe looked surprised. Snowtooth, I know you love her, but it's not your burden to carry. Do you understand? I care for you. He finished. Snowtooth looked at him. I know, but I mean, just when we see Flowers, these three dots appear on my forehead. It makes no sense. Copperstripe looked around. They looked like they're marked because of Flowers. Mother told me about the language that ancient animals used to use, he replied in a whisper. Anyways, those marks might mean something about you. Maybe you're her heiress, Copperstripe added. Snowtooth looked at him. If I'm her heiress, I would have been born earlier to free her, Snowtooth argued. Copperstripe froze for a moment. It doesn't really matter. Now that we're older, we have to do jobs. Come on, let's get some food. Snowtooth nodded as she darted out the den. Alright, that is Chapter 5, or maybe I'll add more, like, some mystery at the end. Like that fawn, that creepy fawn that's just like, I'll happily listen. But, guys, I hope you guys liked that. Because I sure did. So make sure to know that this belongs to me, and you guys, if you try to say something like, oh yeah, I came up with the name, let's see. I came up with the name Snowtooth. No, you didn't. I came up with it. Unless it's from, like, the Warriors or something like that, but I didn't look anything up and say, like, oh yeah, that sounds good, so I'm going to copy that. No, I tried to make them up, so yeah, bye.